Most people know Metawin as the face of Together, the BL series that exploded globally during lockdown and turned a rookie actor into an overnight name. But 5 years later, that version of Win no longer tells the full story. Today, he's not just an actor under GMMTV. He's a fashion-facing public figure, a founder of multiple businesses, and a shareholder inside Thailand's entertainment ecosystem, all while carefully reshaping where his career is heading next. This isn't a nostalgia trip through BL history. This is an industry spotlight on how Metawin moved from breakout fame to long-term positioning, and why his post-BL choices matter more than the role that made him famous. So let's talk about how that shift actually happened. When Together premiered in 2020, it didn't just introduce a new BL pairing. It arrived at a very specific global moment. Lockdowns had pushed audiences online. International viewers were more open than ever to subtitled content, and Thai BL was beginning to break out of its regional bubble. Together became one of the first series to truly cross that line, spreading far beyond Thailand and into global streaming spaces almost overnight. For Metawin, this was his acting debut. He wasn't entering the industry with a long resume or years of supporting roles behind him. He stepped directly into a lead role, and into a phenomenon that moved faster than anyone could have planned for. Part of Together's appeal was accessibility. The university setting was familiar, the tone was light, and the story didn't demand heavy cultural context. But what really pushed the series forward was timing. During lockdown, audiences weren't just watching, they were clustering. Fandoms formed quickly, content spread rapidly, and Win's visibility grew in parallel with the show's reach. Almost immediately, Win became globally recognizable as Tyne. His image, his pairing, and his early public identity were tightly linked to BL, not just as a genre, but as a moment in internet culture. And unlike many breakout successes, Together didn't fade quietly. It led to a sequel, a film adaptation, and long-term fan attachment that extended well beyond the original broadcast window. For Win, this meant something important. BL wasn't just his starting point, it became the foundation of his public career. But even early on, there were signs that Together wasn't going to be the endpoint. Instead of repeating the same formula, Win's next major project moved sideways, rather than forward into BL. F4 Thailand placed him in a mainstream remake with a completely different audience profile. It wasn't a rejection of BL, it was a repositioning. And that shift matters, because it shows that Together wasn't just a breakout role, it was leverage. Win didn't leave BL behind because it failed him. He stepped away because it had already done its job. After Together, the obvious move would have been to stay exactly where he was. Another BL, another university romance, another pairing built to extend the same momentum. That's usually how post-breakout careers in BL are managed. Double down while the attention is hot. Win didn't do that. Instead, his next major role was F4 Thailand, Boys Over Flowers, a mainstream remake with a completely different audience, a different tone, and a much wider cultural footprint inside Thailand. This wasn't about chasing a new ship or recreating the same chemistry. It was about visibility beyond BL spaces. That decision mattered. F4. Thailand placed Win back into a familiar Asian pop culture framework, but one that reached casual viewers, family audiences, and advertisers who weren't necessarily paying attention to BL fandoms. It shifted how he was perceived, not as a BL actor trying something new, but as a young lead actor who had already proven his pull. From there, the pattern becomes clearer. Win didn't abandon BL. He stopped letting it define the ceiling of his career. His project choices widened, his public image diversified, and his presence began moving into spaces where genre mattered less than brand. At the same time, his career stopped being about repeating the same on-screen role. He kept acting, but in ways that widened rather than narrowed his image. This is where the post-BL shift really settles into place. Instead of building momentum through repetition, Win began shaping a career through range, choosing projects that expanded how he could be seen, rather than reinforcing a single identity. That shift isn't about leaving anything behind. It's about control. As Win stepped away from BL-led visibility, another lane began to open, one that wasn't tied to genre at all: fashion. Unlike acting projects, fashion doesn't require narrative repetition. It doesn't lock an artist into a role, a pairing, or a storyline. What it offers instead is image, and Win understood that early. By the early 2020s, he was no longer just attending events as a Thai actor. He was appearing at international fashion weeks, sitting front row at major runway shows, and being positioned alongside global tastemakers rather than CP pairings. These appearances weren't random. They were signals. Fashion allowed Win to stay visible without overexposure. He could maintain public presence while acting selectively, and crucially, without being boxed into BL expectations. In an industry where actors are often defined by their most popular role, fashion became a way to redefine the conversation. Luxury brands took notice. Prada's decision to appoint Win as a brand ambassador wasn't just about looks. It was about reach, digital impact, and cross-market appeal. He wasn't being marketed only to Thai audiences or even only to BL fans. He was being positioned as part of a global fashion ecosystem. And that visibility compounded quickly. Appearances at Milan Fashion Week, global magazine covers, and partnerships with brands like Tiffany & Co. didn't replace his acting career. They stabilized it. They ensured that his relevance didn't depend on constant screen time or viral CP moments. This is an important distinction. Win didn't pivot to fashion because acting slowed down. He used fashion to control how he stayed present while choosing when to act. By this point, his public identity had shifted. He wasn't being discussed only as a BL actor who got popular. He was being framed as a public figure with international currency, someone whose name carried value beyond any single role. And once that happens, the career equation changes entirely. By the time Metawin was being discussed as a fashion-facing public figure and luxury brand ambassador, another part of his career was already quietly taking shape, one that rarely gets the same level of attention. Long before headlines about luxury brands or shareholder lists, Win had started building businesses of his own. He launched his first venture at 18 while still studying economics. Not as a vanity project, but as hands-on work, learning logistics, operations, and how money actually moves. That mindset carried forward when he entered the entertainment industry. Valence, his fashion brand, wasn't positioned as celebrity merch. It was built as a standalone label, distributed internationally, and designed to survive beyond fan-driven demand. At the same time, he co-founded Suri, which grew from a small online dessert launch into one of Thailand's most recognizable contemporary patisserie brands. What began as a lockdown-era online launch has since scaled into a nationwide operation. Suri now operates multiple physical locations, employs over 100 people, and reports monthly macaron sales in the hundreds of thousands. At that point, it stops being a celebrity side project and becomes a real retail business, with infrastructure, supply chains, and long-term operational planning behind it. He grew up in a business-oriented, financially comfortable environment, but the scale of his wealth today comes from what he's built himself. What's important here isn't just scale, it's intent. Win didn't treat acting income as the end goal. He treated it as capital. Brand fees became startup funding. Visibility became leverage. And over time, that translated into ownership, not just endorsements. Win has been clear that his businesses aren't about image or personal branding. In interviews, he said his goal is to build systems that can run without him, to the point where he could step back operationally by his mid-30s. For him, success isn't constant visibility. It's businesses that continue working whether he's there or not. That context matters when people react with surprise to his later moves, especially his investment into Thailand's entertainment ecosystem itself. Because by the time he became a shareholder in a major media company, this wasn't a sudden pivot. It was the logical next step in a pattern he'd been building quietly for years. Win wasn't stepping into business after fame. He was preparing for what comes after relevance. By this point, one detail about Win Metawin's career tends to get exaggerated online: his status as a shareholder. So let's be clear about what that actually means, and what it doesn't. Win holds a minority stake in One Enterprise, the parent company behind major Thai entertainment brands, including GMMTV, the agency he is signed to, and the wider media ecosystem he already works within. This does not make him an executive. It does not give him control over management, casting, or company direction. He isn't running the business, and he isn't calling the shots. What it is, instead, is a strategic investment. This is ownership as positioning, placing capital inside the industry he understands best, rather than treating entertainment work as something to age out of and leave behind. It reflects the same pattern we've already seen, turning visibility into leverage, and leverage into long-term optionality. And that's why this matters. Being a shareholder allows Win to stay connected to the entertainment ecosystem without being trapped by it. He's not dependent on any single role, pairing, or phase of popularity. He's thinking in systems, where influence, income, and relevance don't all disappear at the same time. This isn't about power, it's about planning. And it's one of the clearest signals yet that Win isn't just managing a career. He's positioning for longevity. If the earlier phases of Metawin's career were about building visibility, his next one is about direction. His upcoming series, Scarlet Heart Thailand, marks a clear shift in scale and intent. It isn't a BL project, and it isn't a small experimental role either. It's a historical fantasy adapted from a well-known IP, positioned for global release, and designed to travel far beyond Thailand's domestic audience. More importantly, it reflects where Win is aiming next. He's spoken openly about wanting to work on international projects and bring Thai stories to a wider global audience, not by abandoning the local industry, but by expanding its reach. Scarlet Heart Thailand sits right at that intersection, Thai-produced, globally distributed, and built to introduce new audiences to Thai storytelling. That doesn't mean he's erasing his BL roots. BL was the platform that launched his career, and the fandom that came with it still plays a role in his public identity. But at this stage, BL is no longer the frame that defines his choices. It's part of the foundation, not the ceiling. What's emerging instead is a career that isn't anchored to one genre, one pairing, or one moment in internet culture. Win is moving toward projects that scale, travel, and endure, the kind of work that fits a long game rather than a hype cycle. And that, more than anything, explains the shape of his path so far. He isn't stepping away from where he came from. He's building beyond it. Metawin didn't leave BL behind. He used it as a starting point. From breakout fame to strategic repositioning, in roles, fashion, and business, his career isn't built around staying visible. It's built around staying relevant. This isn't about trends or pairings, it's about longevity. I hope this pause in the chaos helped you see his career a little differently. If it did, let me know in the comments. Do you think Win's path is the future for BL actors, or the exception? And if you enjoy this kind of industry-focused breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and stick around. Until next time, this is GPkP.